What's happening, my friend?
Hey, Travis. Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday.
What were you saying you don't give a fuck about?
That was just a test. So I heard from a lot of our listeners that I might have sounded a little upset in the last.
You upset? No. What could you possibly be upset about?
There's so little left, to be honest with you.
But I think it's more of a constant where I wouldn't say that you get upset. You're just always upset. No?
I am becoming a cranky older person.
Are you not watching your Adult Swim to get good thoughts and
oh my God,
mellow out a little bit?
Did I tell you about that? About that cartoon I watched on Adult Swim?
Which one?
Satan's Daughter. I'm going to highly recommend it for everybody. Go find Adult Swim on your HBO Now feed, and you'll find Adult Swim. And in there, you should be able to find Satan's Daughter.
Do you have to pay for Adult Swim?
No. You have to pay for HBO Go.
Yeah, however you get your HBO, you can see
HBO Max, right? That's what it is now. So
HBO Max is HBO and Cinemax together? Do you get the channels on both networks?
Not Cinemax. No, it's just HBO. They changed the name from HBO to HBO Go, and then it was sold to Warner Brothers, and so now it's HBO Max.
So it has nothing to do with Skinemax?
No, nothing to do with Cinemax. Yeah, that's a different.
It's new, right? This HBO Max is new?
It's new. Yeah, it's new. It's I think it was toward the middle or the end of last year, and actually it is owned by Warner Brothers now. So the whole HBO thing is owned by Warner Brothers, and that's the current incarnation of HBO. Because I don't even know if you can get HBO on cable channel bundles anymore. I think the only way you can get it now is to subscribe to the app, to download the app and then subscribe.
I'm not sure, but if this is, in the last year or 2 years, something else that had the name Max, the 737 Max that fucking crashed and killed all these people. So the name Max in your name is obviously not good publicity. So these guys decided that they're going to launch HBO Max because that sounds good.
Yes, yeah. And then the first thing they did was piss off about half the movie making industry by premiering Wonder Woman on HBO Max on Christmas Day. At the same time, it was released to theaters.
So isn't that interesting? I mean, I really don't go to the movies, but if the movie, I guess it's the studio, right? They own, say, Wonder Woman. They then have a contract with the movie theaters to lease it to them for a period of time, and then they also lease it to people like, I'm using the word lease, I really don't know, and then they give it to the HBOs of the world. Is there something contractually that says, hey, don't release this until 3 months after it's been in the theaters, or has that just been kind of what the norm was, but it's up to they could do whatever they want?
I think that the official term they use for this is windowing. So the way it's been done for the last many years is they send out the movies for theatrical release to the theaters in like 6 months, right? And then after 6 months, then they premiere them on the various cable, outlets, whatever.
But who controls that timeline? Is that the studio?
This is just Warner Brothers, right? So the person that's in charge, I don't have his name, and I don't think our listeners would care, but he's recently in charge of Warner Brothers and HBO, and this was his decision to do it this way and he may be crucified for it. Who knows? Because there are a lot of directors that feel, because it
would be nice for one of these movie guys to be crucified for a movie decision and not like sexual harassment and everything else, pedophilia and all this other shit that they do.
So we'll see. We'll see if it's going to work. It's just Warner Brothers. This was just Warner Brothers decided to release just Wonder Woman simultaneously, and he's just saying, "Hey, this is what people want."
Which it is.
Yeah, and so he says, "Hey, I get that I might take the blame for this, or I might be punished by directors that won't do movies for Warner Brothers or whatever." but he says, hey, we'll see. Well, he thinks it's going to pay off in the long run. Now, the bad part is that the Wonder Woman movie turned out to be a piece of crap. So
right. I heard it was pretty
really
terrible.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. So
it's an interesting dynamic because it is how I think people want to get their content. It very much mimics the streaming music, iTunes and all that shit for the last 10 years. It's how we get our movies. I was talking to somebody over the weekend about Netflix and how in the old days when Netflix first came out, you signed up and you had a queue and you selected the movies that you wanted and they mailed you the DVDs in the mail. Mm-hmm. And people were like, well, what's a DVD? We're already at that generation. And now everything's, and they had streaming early on, but the quality was terrible and the selections weren't that good. But now that's everything that you get is all streaming. And nobody wants to go to the movies. So the way that an HBO will succeed ultimately is by the number of subscriptions that they can sell based on their content. But it's interesting, if they don't control the content, they're not a Netflix or even an Amazon that's investing in their own original content. They're basically, I guess they do, right? They have
HBO.
They have some stuff, but not this. This is studio stuff.
HBO is actually the original. HBO is actually the first one of these outfits that made original content, right?
Well, like Sopranos and stuff.
Yeah.
But they have a mixed model because they're
getting... this is a movie, right? So this is a movie, a theatrical movie, but certainly HBO has done a lot of, and continues to do, and they have access to all of the HBO. I mean, all of HBO was sold to Warner Brothers, I think, is if I understand it right. So Warner Brothers bought HBO and now they own it all and control it all. So I think HBO and Netflix are going to be competing at a pretty. So here's what I think. HBO, we don't know yet because HBO Max hasn't been here long enough, and it went through a couple of years of weird changes. HBO Go.
That's what. Yeah, right. I remember that.
Yeah. So it's just HBO Max now, and it's Warner Brothers, and it's its own streaming platform, right? So HBO Max, Disney is killing it. They have so much, they own everything. Right?
They far exceeded, I think, their 2 or 3 year projections in the first 6 months.
And then their real competition. And then the next one is really Netflix, who's still doing just fine. Netflix is a fantastically successful version with innovative. So there's been a lot of innovation there with Netflix, and they did go through that transformation, right? From a send in your thing and we'll mail you the DVD. So what? Because you're too lazy to go down the street to Blockbuster. So that all evolved into what.
Who even knows what a Blockbuster is anymore?
Right. I saw something on Instagram or something. There's a West Coast motion picture is some kind of like Blockbuster like video store that was in a lot of malls, and there's still one mall that still has one that's operating, right? And it's full of DVDs and stuff. I mean,
what's that for? Just hipsters to go there? And
I don't know. I guess eventually someone's gonna, like the nonsense with vinyl records. Oh, they sound so much better. That's just a lie. Okay,
who wants to sit and listen to every song from start to finish on that album? We all have ADD. We all need to hit shuffle. I don't want to listen to this band the whole time. I don't know.
I don't get it, man. I mean, here's the thing. So I had all of them, right? I have like 4,000 records, and I
still
idiotically,
do, right?
Yeah, I still have them, but I'm going to sell them sooner or later as soon as I can figure it out. And I even took a couple of other people's record collections off their hands because, I'm like, oh, maybe I can get $1 a piece for them or something. So somewhere along the road, I'm going to make my $6,000 or something at $1 a piece. But for the time being, I mean, I was at the point in my music listening and collecting career that I was going nuts. I mean, that's why I was an early adopter of laser discs, which were 12-inch, compact discs, only they weren't compact. And it was all digital because I wanted to get rid of the cracks and the pops and the scratches and the skips. And these people want them back. Well, fine, go get them back. You're gonna get sick of it too. So just because don't listen to anybody that has. I just wanted, and tape. I just wanted digital medium. Tape was never any good because even the best reel-to-reel has hiss. And certainly every cassette known to man had a bunch of background hiss. And no random access, right?
You're
and
like
no
one of the only. You're like one of 3 people that I know that ever had a laser disc.
I know. Early adopter. Yeah.
Well, early adopter, but I mean, it never really even took off.
I didn't even really care about films, right? I mean, to be honest with you, I don't watch many films more than once. So the main thing that was available on Laserdisc were films. Although there was a fairly decent selection of live music and
like concert
live
videos?
music like concert videos for different bands. And there was, it was all kind of happening at the same time MTV was. So after a while you could get collections of videos by bands like Duran Duran or something. They take all their videos and put them on a Laserdisc. So that gave me access to the music from those live shows and those video compilations digital, right? There was no skips, there were no pops, there were no nothing. And then it all kind of just, compact disc came. And so then I recreated most of my goddamn record collection in compact disc.
That's the other gimmick of the music industry is we all kind of did that as technology bounced around and we needed to have the latest and greatest. And, I can't play this anymore because I don't have that player, so I have to buy this.
Yeah. Well, the bulk of my compact disc collection is directly behind my head in a shelf where it hasn't been touched for the last 3 years. I mean, so now I have the full family sharing edition of Apple Music. So I don't know I would ever touch a compact disc again. Plus, I ripped most of my compact discs into my iTunes library, and they're not playable. It's just that they have ceased to support that format, right? So it's different now, and I'm not up on all the latest terminology. It used to be MP3s, and it was MP4s, and there's a whole lot of what I put in my computer disk drive, which I no longer have, right? There's no disk drive in my computer. And I would rip in the entire,
I think it's all licensing. I think when you sign up for iTunes, you're basically signing an agreement that says you don't own that music in your library. Even when you uploaded it, you're just paying for the right to listen to the playback when you want to,
Which is one of the reasons why I've held on to my compact disc. I mean, I still have ways to play those if I want to, but I really don't want to. And here's the other sad part too. One of the cool things about iTunes for me was I had all the music that I had created with Mitch and stuff, about 50 different songs. So all my personal music stuff that I made myself, that no longer plays on iTunes. Now I can go into my computer, find the files. I can play them through the little music player.
Yeah, get another
computer
media player.
Yeah, but it's not. I can't do it through my phone and all that stuff. So, got to figure all that out down the road. But I think I don't know. I think probably at my age, probably digital hard drives and digital download streaming is probably the end of the line.
Don't say it. Don't say it. You never know. Well, I mean, what do you think? I mean, with all that other shit, was it just too much technology happening at the same time? Is that why, like Laserdisc, for example, never really took off? Because before it really could gain momentum, there was DVD on the heels of that. And then there was the whole, DVD and Blu-ray. And we're like, what the fuck? Yeah. Just give me some movies.
Yeah. Half my
Don't make me figure it out.
I never bought a lot of DVDs in general, right? I already been burned a couple different times, so never bought. And plus, I just don't rewatch movies much. Once I've seen it, I maybe not remember much about it, but I typically don't rewatch it unless it just happens to come on broadcast TV or something. But rarely do I ever. And I've got, I don't know, probably got 100 DVDs, right? And half of them are Blu-ray, because when that started happening, I started replacing DVDs I'd already bought. So that was pissing me off. So I just let all that go. Laserdisc didn't take off because it was still a really large format, right? And there just weren't enough players. It's not the DVDs. It's not the players, but unless you have millions of players in homes, the software doesn't really matter. So, they want to sell DVD. They wanted to sell Laserdisc. That just never happened, right? Because there were just only a few thousand Laserdisc players around the country, right?
And this shit was expensive too.
Yeah, it was expensive. It's like $25, and that was a long time ago.
I know.
So yeah, and there was my local video place used to rent rent Laserdisc, but Blockbuster never did. They never did rent Laserdisc, which is another thing that kind of killed the Laserdisc thing. So I had a local video store that rented VHS tapes and all that. But he had a Laserdisc player, right?
They had
so
everything.
he bought a bunch of Laserdiscs so he could rent them out, and so I was able to rent Laserdiscs from him, but that was only for a few years.
You got to love the good old neighborhood video store. They had a little curtain in that secret room in the back where all the nudie videos were.
Yeah, well, it reminded me of the old days. I grew up buying records from a record store in Inglewood on a side street next to Winchell's by my high school called Crane's Records. It was the smallest, the smallest store footprint you can get. It was like 2,500 square feet, right? And it was long and narrow, perfect for a record store.
Yeah.
3 aisles of record
Shit you didn't need.
Yeah, and I would go in there with my allowance or whatever the story was and buy records, and they were $3 a piece. And I bought a vast majority of my personal, vinyl record collection from that store. And I was a real holdout on, like, say, what was the big one? I'm going to forget. What was the big record store that was the one in Hollywood and all the rest of them?
Capitol Records?
No, the record store, not the record producer.
Oh God, it's on the tip of my tongue.
That Warehouse, that was one.
That was another one.
The other one. Well, all you guys in the audience probably know what I'm talking about. Oh my God, what was the name of it? Okay, I don't know. Anyway, I didn't like going to the big record stores, the big chain record stores. I missed that old little neighborhood store, but it was long gone for a long time. Yeah, it's been interesting, and I haven't been in any kind of record. I mean, then you could get almost everything at a Target or something, and that just really kind of
Costco. Remember when Costco started selling CDs?
I bought a lot of DVDs from Costco. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
The old bait and switch. They put in those long little skinny packages. You're like, what am I getting? A bonus CD or a booklet? No, it's fucking 3 layers of wrappers, and it's the same CD.
That was the other thing with the movies that you bought. For a while, there were like digital copies you could download and stuff, but now it's just, really makes sense. It's just all streaming now. So every movie I've ever bought online or from Apple, for instance, I can access in my phone and play on my phone.
Yeah, that's the cool part, just the accessibility of it. I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot of 8mm videotapes. So that's the format that went in the first handy cams and all that. Remember the first?
Yep.
So I've got a bunch of those. They call them 8mm, and I need to take them. And I've got a bunch of. I had a couple of bands, and I used to, especially one, I used to film all the practices. So it would be absolutely torturous to have to. It's all on this tape. Now, if the tape hasn't disintegrated, I should be able to take it to Costco and have it all put.
You should do that one of these days.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. It's gonna be expensive, but then I can go through and
you're a millionaire capitalist. You can afford it.
I am, absolutely. Yeah, and so I'm just waiting to get motivated and dig those tapes up and take them over to Costco, because there's hundreds of hours of practice on those tapes, and there are some real good versions that we played, but without random access, there's no fucking way. It would just be torture. To try to do it on any kind of tape format where you've just got to, fast forward or rewind or whatever, and you can never find it again.
Kid who will geek out on it, give them a couple of bucks and have them put it together.
I don't know exactly what the technology is.
You don't need to know. Just give it to them and say, make this shit sound good. Cut it together.
I'm going to take it to. Here's the bad news, though, for everybody listening. Everybody on that tape, except for me, is dead.
Is that right? Everybody?
Yeah. Well,
I thought you had one other survivor.
No. Terry and Frank, my friends Terry and Frank, the bass player and the guitar player, both passed away. Frank recently. Terry,
but that's because they never diversified, and you, of course, went on to other things and have a career in podcasting.
Yeah, well, because I'm still alive.
Well, there's that too.
I mean, here's the key to that successful story. I'm still here. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, I haven't seen any of these tapes for a long time. So something to look forward to, something to do is, when I have a little more time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
on the side
who
of
has
but it's
that?
in the same. Right. Well, then I'll start my YouTube channel of,
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the name of the band was. I don't even know if we had a name. I don't think so.
I had a band name one time. I had an actual band. Not how the Couch Funeral podcast started with, the idea of
I thought that was the band name you never used.
It is, but I actually had a band before that was an actual band called Mental Anguish, which I think maybe, this is way back, in the early 90s. Maybe somebody has used that name at this point and made a real band, at least a YouTube band. But we'll have
I haven't heard of it. Mental Anguish, though, not a bad name.
Right, for a bunch of high schoolers.
And like we were talking about the other day, if all our listeners go back and look at the brilliant names that Travis has come up with for our 20 some odd episodes, every one of them could have been a great name for a song. I mean,
the greatest hits. You look at our run through, I think they all qualify.
The neck boil, the black guy. I mean,
a lot of them. I've said this to you privately, but a lot of them are kind of, knocks against you with whatever ailments you have and conditions and things you're going through. So I had to step off of that a little bit. I didn't want you to take all the heat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the good news. I guess if you guys see that the names of the episodes are trending back toward politics or something, that means I don't have any current physical ailments that we're talking about on air.
Well, and the other thing too is some of it is, to try to engage a little bit and tie in the funny things that we throw out there to politics and current events. And other times I kind of have this little part-time hobby of, I like to buy domain names, which things that some of them I've turned into businesses, some of them I've reserved for, other businesses, and some I just think are funny. Like I went on this, what did I get? I think the most recent one I got was buttholefinger.com and buttholefingers.com. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Where I'm
okay, stop Googling it now to the audience. Stop Googling.
It's already taken.
Done anything. It's already taken. He hasn't done anything with it. Oh,
but I mean, that could be a food reference. We could launch like a food truck, Butthole Fingers. I don't know. I could see that. Oof. Or, so I'm not sure, but I just like to have it there, and I can go back to the archives, and sometimes something brilliant happens, like launching the podcast. So you just never know. You got to be creative.
Yeah, I'm still shook up from that last name, but go ahead.
So I'm trying to follow the news, by the way, just other things outside of, the shitstorm of current events that we're in. And I don't have an answer to this. Do you have a gauge on where we are with the Olympics? Is that thing happening or not?
The 2020 Olympics, I theoretically, are supposed to happen in Japan this summer.
Well, it was always Japan in 2020, and then they moved.
They're still calling it the 2020
Olympics, of course. But is it going to happen, you think?
I kind of doubt it, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I think that's sometime around June or July or something like that.
I think it's July.
Yeah, I don't think I just don't think things are going to be calmed down by then. But who knows? Because there's and it's going to be, if it goes any longer, it's going to be pretty close to the next one, right?
Well, that's the thing is, already you have, what is it? You have every 2 years, you have the summer and the winter games alternate, and then of course every 4 years for each of those.
Yeah, right. Back. So isn't it the 22 Winter Olympics?
I think so.
Because there's no odd number Olympics, right?
But I was just thinking, we have the Super Bowl coming up, and we've had some other live sports. Some things are letting people back in. That's just here in the U.S., but I haven't heard anything about the Olympics. And I'm just wondering.
The Super Bowl is supposed to be hospital workers or health workers or something. That's the only people that are going to let in. I don't know. I don't even plan on watching it this year. Usually I watch I don't ever care about the football, and usually I watch it for the halftime show, but I don't even know who's going to do the halftime show, and the whole thing sounds stupid. I would just, this kind of stuff, I would just let it go until things, get back to normal, until we have widespread vaccine and you can have regular crowds in the thing. I guess I have a question for you, Travis. Do you see regular crowds coming back to sports events in general once let's just say the benchmark is, widespread vaccination.
Well, that's kind of why I threw it out there. I'm just, thinking out loud. And, when you look at, like I said, there are some sporting events that we've had here in the U.S. where we've had people go. But I was just thinking with a worldwide event like the Olympics, I'm curious with a guy like Biden, could he say, I don't know, I'm channeling to you now, if you can reach out to your Democratic people, could Biden say, hey, we're not going to send the U.S. team? I won't allow the U.S. team to participate in the Olympics. And would a large influential country like the United States, if we made a statement like that, would it be enough to kill the games? I mean, I could see something like that happening, actually.
Well, I mean, possibly. I mean, I think that they're going to not be likely to be in support of anything that seems to go against, whatever they think, whatever the Biden administration thinks is the right way to handle social distancing and so forth in regards to COVID. So,
but they clearly would have no jurisdiction for games being held in Japan. So that's why I'm thinking the only thing they could do is say we can't play.
Well, I mean, I think that all the protocol stuff's going to be known way ahead of time, and if they don't approve of it, they could prevent the U.S. team from going. It wouldn't be the first time that we haven't participated.
No, I know, but I just think, to me, I mean, if you're asking the question, I think we, of course, should have events. I've always said, when you hear the shit in the news about travel is down and no one wants to fly on a plane and no one wants to go to the movie theaters, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that that's not necessarily the full truth. I think part of that has to do with the fact that, like, for planes, you can't really go anywhere. I mean, nothing's open, so why would you fly to go somewhere and do nothing? For movies, the movies suck, and who wants to go sit in a crowded theater with people? But I think sports,
sticky floored rat trap.
Yeah, I think sports, people want to get back and see shit. So, I mean, you could have the Olympics with no spectators, but I don't think. I think that would cost too much money for Japan.
I don't see. I mean, that's the only way these countries.
Doug, we need your help. What does
back.
Japan think? We need our buddy Doug's help.
I can't wait to see the text here. Yeah, here's the thing. I guess for me, it's hard because don't care about sports.
Do you
don't
watch
the
Olympics?
Olympics?
Though? You don't.
No.
You never. We got like 2 weeks. You never just kind of in the evenings tune in, see what's doing. See if Bob Costas has his pink eye again.
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while, right? I don't remember. Honestly, I don't remember. It's because it's just not a sports guy. I just don't care. So, and winter, I kind of find winter. I guess we do from time to time. It just depends what's going on, right? There's ice skating, and you got the ski jumping, and you've got the luge, and what's the thing with the big bathtub you go down the mountain with?
Did you just say it? The luge? What is it?
Toboggan.
Bobsled.
Well, that's the bobsleds. Yeah,
it doesn't have the same appeal. I know what you mean.
So here's the thing. You know what the luge? That's that little flat. And did you have a flyer when you were a kid? Did you have that toy that was a flat piece of wood, right, with 4 wheels and two little handlebars in the front, just in front of the little tiny wheels, that if your hand slipped off those grips, it would cut your fingers off at the knuckle?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
What was it called? Flexi Flyer, I think. And so
same as like a roller racer.
I never had one. My parents would never buy me one. I think because my mom was a little overprotective, and I think that they saw the same thing I see in it right now. It's like, okay, if your fingers come off that hand grip thing, they're just 2 inches in front of these wheels, which are small, and they're solid rubber, right? They're hard rubber. So I lived on a hill. My house was, my block ended in a hill. So you could take anything down there, right? And I had friends, and I rode my friends a couple of times because, that's what you do, even though the thing was never let me catch you riding one of those things or else. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. Don't worry. I never will. And I'm down it. Right. But we used to take wagons. Did you ever have a wagon when you were a kid?
No.
Like a red.
I know what a wagon is.
Yeah. Radio flyer. Well, you're a lot younger than I am. So, and so we used to take the wagon down there. And then I remember one time I got a wagon, and we built a ramp and took the wagon off the ramp. Of course, wagons don't have any suspension. So when you go off a ramp and your wagon comes down on the ground, if you don't die from that, then your wheels end up kind of splayed out to the side. So
maybe all your former bandmates got into wagon racing. That's what happened to them.
Oh, such a sad story. I mean, we would have been a classic band if we'd been successful. We'd all be dead by the time, our records got famous, if you know what I'm saying. So
that's kind of the way it should go, right? I mean, with these rock stars die young because they don't really age well, and then the music's terrible, and then they have this formula for how they put out songs. But isn't it much cooler? Not that you wish death on anybody, except for, crotchety old people. But
well, listen, the ones that live just kind of, I mean, I don't really follow, you two, like, hey, what's Bono doing today? I don't give a shit.
That's a great example, though. I mean, they were like,
still huge, but
they are still huge, but
go back about, I'm going to say it was maybe 6 or 8 years ago. I saw them in concert here, and they were like at the absolute height of their popularity, and it was a pretty inspiring concert. But then they're just, I mean, there's just a finite lifespan for popular music bands, no matter how big they are. And rock is just kind of dying out, right? I mean, there's just so many other kinds of music, and certainly there's
and who wants to go to a crowded place and get shitty seats and you can't really hear.
We had a friend that used to get us tickets, lots of tickets for lots of concerts at the pond, at the Anaheim Arrowhead Pond or whatever the hell it is, Honda Center now.
I think it is the Honda Center. So
I must have seen about, I don't know, 25, 30 concerts there in the same seats, right? In the section where they had waiters, and where they would come to your
seat. That's not really a rock concert. You sit there and place orders. Were you drinking back then?
No, not really for any of that time. I didn't really. This was a vendor that Debbie had at her work. Super nice guy, and he got us a lot of great seats. But we were way up high, and there was really. I mean, it wasn't so high that it wasn't good, but it was high enough so that
the sound's off, right?
Typically, people were not standing in front of us, right? So the seats were really slanted. So, even if they stood, I could still see, but I burned out on going to concerts where I had to stand for 2 hours and listen to the whole show. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work for me. That stopped working a long time ago. I've been to those concerts. In fact, I was at one with you. Wasn't that wasn't that how it was when we went to see? Was it Elton John? No, it was. Was it Elton John?
Yeah,
or was
yeah. But that's more of a sit down. That's, I guess, it depends on the crowd.
Was that the Elton John concert where the people were standing up in front of us the whole time?
The whole time, yeah.
The whole time, yeah. So that wasn't very good. So I don't really look forward to that. But a lot of these concerts I was able to sit down at the pond there. Saw a lot of great bands there. Rolling Stones and stuff?
Are you kind of? Are you ever going to go to a crowded place like that again in the post-COVID world? Are you going to go to a theater or a show or anything?
I mean, theaters not so bad because I haven't been to a movie where I was sitting next to anybody or anybody was in front of me for quite a while. And then typically they're so steep now, the seats are set up so steeply that nobody stands in a movie. So I don't know that I would worry about it. If I had to sit there the whole time with a mask on, that's probably, if that's the requirement or if that's what I felt I had to do to be safe, I probably wouldn't do that. So there's not much about, I mean, it used to be when I used to smoke, one of the things that I didn't like going to movies for was that,
I'd have make it 2 hours without a smoke,
2.5 hours without a cigarette. And that would strictly depend on how much smoking was going on in the movie. So, and it just depends. I mean, there were times where I just went out of the theater and went out and smoked and just missed that big chunk of the movie. But the same reason, I mean, the thing about going to the bathroom, it's rare that I'm going to get through a 2-hour movie without taking a pee. So, to get up and not be able to put it on pause and have to make my way at the risk of my life, because once I fall down the stairs in that theater, I'm done. Dead man.
No, I can attest to that. You are a survivor, dude. I've seen you crash and spill and bleed many times. You're still here.
I am still here. You can't see it, but that's the only bruise I have at this moment, and that's from yesterday.
Talking about smoking, I I have Obama on the mind, from reading his book, but everybody knew. I think it was common knowledge that he was a smoker. And reading all the secret places he used to go on the grounds of the White House to smoke.
Really?
But what I didn't know is he was also a martini guy. There was several references in the book where he, calls for his martinis.
I wonder Debbie likes him so
yeah,
much.
Very James Bond of him.
Martinis and cigarettes.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you right now. So if by some horrible mistake I became president of the United States,
you drink martinis?
No, the first thing I would start doing is smoking again. There's no way you can get through that kind of pressure without lighting up a cigarette.
So why can't on this Olympic thing, why can't we just vaccinate all of the athletes and let them have the games?
Is it the athletes that we're worried about? Wouldn't it be the crowds?
Well, I think at a certain point you say whatever the age of the crowd is, if you're over, pick an age, like 65, your better years are behind you. You probably have not a lot to contribute to society. So if you get sick, wait a minute, am I saying that out loud? Hang on. Don't record me.
Well,
microphone on?
Isn't the point of having maximum crowds at these events the thing that makes them pay off for the countries that have them?
It's fun, and you get to cheer on your team or your athlete, and then the host country makes a shit ton of money.
Just let it go till things are okay, and we can just go back and do it normally. I don't want to see any kind of abbreviated or every time I see a sporting event with no crowds. I tried to watch a hockey game the other night, I tried to watch a hockey game the other night for a few minutes, and I'm like, oh, hockey. I haven't seen hockey for months. And it wasn't the teams that I like or whatever, but then I looked and I'm hearing noise. I'm hearing crowd noise, and there's nobody in the fucking place. And I'm like,
Shouldn't it be that and maybe the IOC, is that what it is? The Olympic Committee can take a poll and ask the countries or the athletes if you want to come, and if it's overwhelmingly yes, then you should do it. I mean, I really don't know if they're going to do it. I bring it up because I am worried about Biden and his I don't know how many pens he's burned through in the first couple of weeks with his executive orders, but I could just see him saying, "We're not sending America to the Olympics." Fuck you, Japan.
Well, I'm not sure that Biden is going into this with a chip on his shoulder for Japan. There's so many other places, So, hey, not to get off the subject of the Olympics, but in the world of international politics, did you hear that there was a coup d'etat in Myanmar?
Yeah,
yesterday?
I did. I saw that.
Yeah,
that was an actual coup for the fucking snowflakes in this country. That's not what we had. That was an actual coup.
That was the military. Well, this was what Trump was gonna do. What he wanted to do. The military just threw out the recent election. Just like, hey, that's it. You're out. You democratically elected, popular Democratic president. You're under arrest.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. And so they have declared martial law for the next year. Nobody really knows what their big game plan is. Theoretically, I think they've given some lip service to saying, well, we're going to go a year and figure out how this election was rigged and stolen from us, and then we're going to rerun it.
And you see, that's what Trump had to do. Instead, he fucked it up. He jumped the gun. He should have waited for the Myanmar coup so he could take a page out of their playbook. And he rushed it. He fucked it up.
Well, it comes we're coming to find out that there was a lot more going on behind the scenes with him and his. He really was trying to figure out a way to use the military to overturn the election and so on and so forth. So,
but don't you think? I don't know really much about Myanmar. I did see that story, and I don't know. It's a woman, right? Who's the president or the prime minister, whatever.
Well, so I guess it's a little hard. Theoretically, she has children that are not. They're foreign nationals or something. So somehow that forbids her for being the president of Myanmar, but she's something. And then the president is her ally. So it's like she's the leader of the democratic movement in Myanmar. The president, who doesn't have children that are foreign nationals, is her ally. They're both arrested. So, yeah, I mean, this is just strictly a military takeover. That it was military. It was the military was in charge till 2011 when they agreed to to elections, and she's been popular the whole time. But she's already spent 10 or 15 years in prison in Miramar. During the military rule. So,
do you think? I mean, it was a big major story. But I wonder if, I mean, this shit is happening all over the world. It's happening. It just seems more and more. And, I was talking to our friends in South Africa. I had some calls last week, and they all
get a hold of them, by the way, and tell them to keep their fucking COVID variant to themselves. Okay.
Oh, dude, it's wild. There's a complete alcohol ban in South Africa. So I feel terrible for those people, and I want to send them some liquor, because who can survive without alcohol except for you? I mean, you're the minority here. Who says you're not a minority?
Oh my God. I don't understand that, but there's so much about South Africa and Africa in general that I don't understand. But that just seems so, I don't know.
It's
just weird.
It is weird, but the argument is this: that bad shit happens when you drink. Whether you get sick and fall and break yourself, whether you get in a bar fight, whether you drink and drive and get into a car accident, and all of those things are going to require emergency services, hospital stays, none of which they have excesses of right now. And so the idea is, hey, we're going to take this away from you, this choice away from you, so you don't hurt yourself, and life is going to be better. But we all know that doesn't work.
Yeah, talk about the nanny state. Jesus Christ.
I know. But it is interesting that they all were very curious as to how life was like in the United States. And one of them said to me, we kind of look at you guys as the big brother of democracy. You guys are the staple country of democracy. We always kind of pay attention to what happens in the U.S. Tell me, what the hell's going on? What is in the last couple of weeks? How bad is it? They just get sound bites probably from, BBC and Al Jazeera and other networks, but nothing like the coverage that we have.
Right.
And I kind of said, well, I think that things have calmed down a lot in the last couple of weeks. I believe there's an overwhelming sense of relief, and I think the sentiment is more relief and calmness versus anger, which is still there, and that still needs to be peeled back, and that's going to go on for some time. But I think the overall feeling is those bad years are behind us. The mistake that we made is behind us, and they were relieved at that. And they were all very concerned about the future of America, and they felt like we kind of had this black eye. But I think and given the shit that we talk about all the time, I do think that hopefully those darkest days are behind us, and we can figure out a way forward.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I want to remain as optimistic as I can. I think that, gosh, there's so much that needs to be done so fast, and we're kind of stalled right now on the COVID, relief package. And so if you look at the Biden administration, they probably got 4 big things they want to do. They could probably, with 0 Republican help, they could probably push 1 for sure, and maybe even 2 by using something called reconciliation, which is not an easy process and not a sure thing, but that is a possibility. Let's just take the COVID-19 relief thing. Let's say that they can't figure out a compromise. So far, the Republicans are not. 10 Republicans got together today and put a $600.
I think that's right.
$600 billion proposal.
Don't you think they should take it?
That's not even good faith. No,
yeah, because
that's not good. That's not good faith negotiating on the part of the Republicans.
Yeah, but it's short-sighted. Here's what I think is, I believe, given history, and I think how this administration will work its way through at least these first 4 years, just take the fucking deal, knowing that you're going to get another second or third or fourth round of stimulus passed in the months ahead. So I think that they're just too short-sighted, thinking, oh, we can't cave and this is too small of a package. Well, fuck it, do another one. That's what they're going to do. Well, I don't understand. I think they can get what they want in time, and they're going to blow it up by being stubborn over this first round of Biden anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with any of that.
But you got to think strategy. I am, on this show multiple times I have given you strategy that I think both sides should employ, even if I don't necessarily agree with the position. So strategically, if you're trying to get this passed, the fastest way to get money to people is to agree to the part of the stimulus that both sides agree with, and then figure out a way around the other shit later.
I guess that it just shows you which group of politicians gives a crap about the actual people and what they need. And it's not the Republicans. So once again, I think I'll just echo what you named the last episode. The Republican Party is dead.
Yes.
Okay.
And so now, which party is it going to be? The Democrats or the communists within the Democratic Party that's gonna get this shit done in the future?
I'm just going to consider that non-responsive.
I mean, where are we going with this? I mean, these Democrats.
Well, listen. Here's how it went. The Biden administration took all the problems that need to be handled in relationship to the economy, the COVID, the aftermath of the Trump administration. And they said, look, here are the things that need to happen. Here's what we need to do, especially in relationship to COVID. And they first figured out what needed to be done, and then they figured out how much it was going to cost. And it's $1.9 trillion. So
well, there's a
little bit of wiggle room there, but probably in so much as, how much money would go directly to people in the form of payments, but the rest of it doesn't. There's just not much room there for negotiation on the amounts.
But don't you think? Well, go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, I mean, it's not good faith on their part to accept less, especially such a ridiculous offer. That is a ridiculous offer.
But you can't see it that way. It's not your fucking house and you got a lowball offer, and it's an insult to the value of your home, and that you.
But it is.
But it's not, because guess what? You get to sell the house again. You get to come back with more bills, which they're going to. We've watched this unfold before.
Yeah, but you're too young to remember when there was actual compromise and there was actual negotiation in politics, and
I don't like compromise.
Political negotiation does not work when one or the other sides is not operating in good faith. And this initial nonsense from the Republican Party is not good faith, and for that reason and that reason alone needs to be rejected.
Yeah, but okay, number one, why would you ever think anything would be in good faith? The whole premise of two opposing parties means you're never going to agree. And quite frankly, the way
you've done a bunch of negotiating, Travis. If you were going to buy a business from somebody, for instance, you're not, and they're asking $2 million, you're not going to offer them $250,000.
No, but here's how I like to negotiate. If I think that there is mutual agreement and interest to proceed, I talk a big game. I feel like I have to protect and defend the other side who's being bashed in the mainstream media. I feel like I have to stand up for the person who's not in the groupthink scenario of every situation. But here's the bottom line.
I'll take that on its face value and realize that this may not actually be your opinion, because this is such a ridiculous offer. And so is obviously not in good faith.
Well, let me
demonstrates that they have no intention of working together. It's just turning out so far.
Why would you? I mean,
to be the same nonsense that we've seen from the Republican Party since the day Newt Gingrich walked.
Why are you surprised by that? You have two opposing parties who don't agree at all fundamentally about how this country should run. So you put them in a room together. Why do you think they're going to come out with some type of centerline package that they all agree with? That's never going to happen. And quite frankly, I don't
think I said I was surprised.
Well,
right?
I know, but you seem angered by it, and I guess I understand. But the point is that it's not going to end any other way. And when you have a compromise, both sides lose. Compromise is terrible.
They don't need the Republicans to make this happen. Okay?
Exactly.
So I don't, I mean, the only reason why they're even fucking around with them is because they want to try to make these big decisions on more of a bipartisan basis. But it's McConnell and his asshole friends that are not doing it. It's not in. So I'm not going to sit by and listen to any nonsense about how the Democrats are not negotiating in good faith. That is not the case.
Nobody negotiates in good faith, period. One thing we need to do away with in this country is all these fucking pork spending bills. Doesn't it make sense?
I've looked at it now. So we talked about this last week. I've looked at it. There's no pork in it.
It's
just what needs to be done.
No, that's not a true statement.
Let's talk about them one by one.
All right, read them to me.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Keep talking while I find.
All right,
this.
So there's this, whatever the price tag is, 1.6, 1.9. The big chunk is relief. I think early on there was arguing about the size of the relief, whether it was an additional $1,400, then it was $2,000. I don't know. Is there shit in there with infrastructure? Is the minimum wage still in there? Those are the big sticking points, right?
So you've got, I'm just going to read these off real quick. Mm-hmm. Direct payments of $1,400 to most Americans, bringing the total relief to $2,000, including the December $600 payments. Mm-hmm. Increasing the federal per week unemployment benefit to $400 and extending it through the end of next September. So it was the first round last year was $600 on top of the, $600 weekly.
A week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, then that was a fairly reasonable number. So they're only trying to get $400 now, increasing the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour.
Stop.
So that's
does that have to do with instant relief?
Well, because it is for the majority of essential workers, they're in this category that'll be affected by minimum wage, even if they're not under the $15 minimum wage. And as you well know, and one of the reasons why I know you're against this is instituting a $15 minimum wage will represent probably a wage increase for quite a few American workers, which is needed. Right?
Well, there's a lot to digest
because it's all the essential low wage earners that have been affected by COVID. I mean, trust me, you and I aren't losing any money before COVID. Right. Again,
fundamentally, I'm just against government setting wages. I don't think that's how the market dynamics should be. I'm on record multiple times of saying that. But I think specifically about this, correct me if I'm wrong, the $15 minimum wage isn't even instantaneous, right? Isn't this a step up increase?
I don't have any detail on that.
I think it is. I might. What are we up to now? 20.
Then that's better. That makes it better.
Well,
that's a more reasonable way to go about it.
Yeah,
than to just
perhaps
jump it.
There's also some shit in there that I believe. And see, this gets lost in the weeds.
Oh, here, I got the rest of the bullet points. Extending the eviction and foreclosure moratoriums until the end of September.
I'm against that
$350 billion in state and local government aid.
Don't even know what that means.
Well, this is to you know what it means. $170 billion for K through 12 schools and institutions of higher learning.
I'm against
$50
KKK
billion
schools.
toward COVID testing.
What? K through 12. I thought you said KKK schools.
KKK school. That's only in the South.
Right.
$50 billion toward COVID testing, $20 billion toward a national vaccine program in partnership with states, localities, and tribes, making the child tax credit fully refundable for the year and increasing the credit to $3,000 per child, $3,600 for a child under 6. That's it. That's the entire bill. There's no pork there. Just those are the things that need to be done. So I get you don't like the minimum $15 per hour minimum wage.
Yeah, it's bad. And it doesn't belong in there. And here's why. Think about it. If you're being honest, and I don't know, by the way, if that is the one and only point that's the Republicans are pissed off about. I really don't know. Maybe you know.
No, obviously not. If the total of this is $1.9 trillion. So they're offering $600 billion.
And I don't know what's
obviously
in the counter argument either.
They don't want to do any of this. right? They just want to send some money to the people. And I don't know what that covers exactly. It ain't much, and it ain't all of this. And all of this needs to be done. All of it. There's nothing on here that isn't needed and necessary.
That's wrong. The minimum wage is not necessary. It's not direct relief. That doesn't belong there.
Let's noted you're not in favor of the minimum wage. What else on here are you not in favor of?
I like it. I mean, listen, the whole thing is just stupid to me. We don't need relief. We need government to get out of the way and let businesses open, and then people will get back to work, and they don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to make a wage. These teachers, they don't want to go to school. They don't want to work because the unions are still forcing them to get paid even though they're not teaching. So give them the vaccines first so that they can go back to school. Why aren't they getting these vaccines? You know,
I didn't follow. What's the question?
The question is that
why aren't teachers getting vaccines?
Yeah, the whole point is this: we need to turn on the engine that we never should have shut off. Let people go back to work. Like you see this a little bit in Orange County here, where people have bucked the system, and when the sheriff said, "Hey, we're not gonna enforce the outdoor dining closures," people said, "Fuck off! I'm just gonna live my life. Everything is essential to me. I need to live." So I guess my point is this:
that was not widespread. Just so you know,
well, it wasn't.
That was not a widespread. There were a few restaurants I know around that continue to have outside dining on the down low, but there was no widespread. You know, what's the word? Flaunting of not following the
no, you didn't flaunt it because you didn't want to run the risk of drawing some attention. But I think the point is this: it's a combination of.
It was a reasonable response by the authorities to something that they didn't want to deal with.
They are,
sheriffs don't want to.
Of course,
they don't want to enforce, outdoor dining policy.
So I mean, nobody
joins the sheriff department so he can be the outdoor dining enforcement fuck.
This other fucking thing, by the way, we have the Super Bowl this weekend, and now that because Newsom's going to lose his job, he's so fearful that he lifted the stay-at-home order in just the last week. But so we have now outdoor dining that's allowed again because we didn't give a fuck anyway. We all stayed open, like I just said. But you know what you can't have? You can't have TVs. At the outdoor dining, you can't have TVs.
Oh, yeah? I didn't hear this.
Because that saves lives, Mike. It saves lives because we can't sit there and eat your hamburger and enjoy the football game because you're going to spread a little longer as you take time to chew while you're watching the Super Bowl. It's fucking maddening what's happening in our government. So anyway, is the bill big enough, small enough? I don't know. I mean, the whole thing, I guess there isn't enough money. Our government, Republicans and Democrats alike, and leaders around the world fucked this up. They got in the way, and they fucked it up, and they overreacted to this nothing burger that it is, and they created a disaster that they can't crawl out from. Even the money to the businesses, the PPP loans, that money, those loans that they ended up doing 2 rounds of, was basically, there was a formula, and it was 2.5 times your monthly payroll. Do you know why it was 2.5 times your payroll?
Why?
Because that's how long they expected this shit to last. That's how long they expected you to be inconvenienced and closed to stop the spread.
That was a terrible. The PPP was a complete fucking failure, right? And once again, the money didn't go where it needed to go. Right?
Well, it couldn't
PPP
because they
should not be. Well, you should not be giving money to companies. You should be supplementing people's payroll directly. It should never go to the company.
Well, they did that too, right? That's why the direct payments. But the whole issue was they gave money to businesses for payroll.
The $1,200, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Listen. We needed 12 months of direct payroll replacement by the government.
Here's where I'll
never going through. No business should have been. I mean, this was.
No, come on, stop. You're working yourself into a tizzy. Let me get on your page here.
Okay.
Listen. You need payments equal to the amount of time that your government steals your livelihood. So if your government is going to steal your livelihood for 12 months, yes, then you need payments for 12 months. But even if you only paid the employees directly and kept it out of the hands of the businesses, you can't exclude them. They have bills. They have rent. They have shit to pay. So the bottom line is that money...
Well, they would have been able to pay it if they...
No, because they had no sales.
If the government was paying their employees' payroll directly, And then the money that they did have could be used to pay their bills and
Businesses
so forth.
don't have money. You know this. They have such a low margin. It's money in, money out. They're paying rent. They're making payroll, and that's it. And
But if you take all the payroll out of it and they're not paying the payroll, then they definitely
because
have money.
there's this little thing called sales. They had no sales. Restaurants were restaurants were closed. So then
fuck restaurants. I don't listen. Please stop talking about restaurants. I don't care. It's not even a big part of GDP.
It is. No, I'm telling you.
Only if you own a restaurant. Otherwise, it's of no
Do you know what makes
consequence.
up the largest portion of the minimum wage? Is restaurant workers. And by the way, I think there's some other, what I was about to say, when you get into the weeds.
We could have been paying those people directly this whole time.
When you get into the weeds of this minimum wage thing, and I don't even fully understand it, there's some shit in there about differentiating between, say, a waitress who maybe makes a lower wage but gets tips, and then the back of house workers, whether it's the chefs or the dishwashers who just make wages and don't make tips. There's some fucking convoluted thing I don't even understand, but it's fucking it up. It's government trying to figure out how business works, and that's the wrong answer.
Well, I don't see what that has to do with the COVID relief bill. And so I'm just going to say, listen, my opinion is that we move on with this 1.9 trillion, authorize it, get it out there. And yeah, I agree with you. There's probably more relief packages to come. And this one needs to get done and out. And the Republicans need to quit fucking around and working in bad faith with the Democrats and get this out. And then if they think that it's too much or something, then do less on the next one. I mean, it works both ways, what you're saying, Travis. And in the meantime, while everybody's using that as an excuse to do nothing, the people that really need the money are not getting it.
Hey, this is the government they elected. This is their government. So, they got what they wanted. They got the White House. They got.
I don't want to get any more riled up about this. So
listen, from here on,
what's the next thing?
This is interesting. This is the election that they wanted. They got the White House. They got the House. They got the Senate. And here's maybe where we can agree.
Yeah, so stop standing in the way of what the people want and work this out with the Democrats.
Why do they need to if they have the votes?
Pass the bill.
Why do they need the Republicans?
Reconciliation is not the preferred way to do this. And everybody talks about bipartisan and working together, and yet it's only the Republicans that are obstructionists. And this is just
why do they need them?
This is just because reconciliation is not the right way. It might be the only way, and it's there if they need it, but that's not the way you want to do it, right? And they have actually the chance to do 2 reconciliation bills this time around because the last budget was never passed.
So here's the bottom line. I'll go back to what I said a second ago. You know what the size of the relief package needs to be? Here's the right answer. You ready?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat what I said. It needs to be equal to the amount of time that the government is going to keep things shut down.
Well, I don't know what that means. Here's what I can tell you.
South African strain taking over.
They went through this. They went through these
Vaccine
bullet points.
They
went through these bullet points that I read off. They figured out what needed to be done. They put a price tag on it, and that's what this is: $1.9 trillion. It doesn't matter.
Is this a House bill, by the way?
Yeah, this is the House bill that needs to be taken up in the Senate.
And so where do we go from here? The Senate either takes that bill and agrees to it verbatim, or they draft their own bill, something like that.
Well, I mean, I think they're meeting today with 10. Look. So and here's the other thing too. This $600 billion counter proposal is just 10 independent Republican senators.
Senators, okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't even represent the whole, the whole party. So, I mean, the negotiation, we're probably looking at, still 2 weeks. So I'm just saying, hey, this counteroffer is not a good faith offer. It's not even from McConnell. So, all in all, it's just nonsense, right? And it's just more example of obstructionist bad faith negotiating on part of the Republicans. So
how come Biden doesn't just sign an executive order and give people free money?
You can't do that, dude.
Don't tell him that.
All right, so that's the COVID bill.
What about this
last weekend?
What about this domestic terrorist bill?
I don't know.
I mean, basically.
Well, I mean, we need domestic terrorist laws. So here's the deal. There's no such law. right? There's nothing that says anything about domestic terrorism. It's a term that's used in the media, and certainly, you know, certainly it's a thing. I mean, we know what a domestic terrorist is. The guy that blew up the Oklahoma, I forgot his name now after all these years.
McVeigh, I think.
Yeah, McVeigh, right?
Timothy
I mean,
McVeigh.
that's domestic terrorism. But and here's the thing. So many of these assholes at the Capitol building from a couple of weeks ago, they're not going to get charged with domestic terrorism. They're going to get charged with trespassing or something ridiculous because there's no fucking such law.
So yeah,
so that needs to be fixed.
Right? Is that what's happening? So they're basically saying we need to have stronger language to classify this type of activity as a different type of crime.
Well, I mean, we need something called domestic terrorism. Because
what did McVeigh get charged with?
I don't know. I don't have any of the details.
I mean,
but I mean, he blew up a building. I think he got charged with blowing up a building. I don't think. But I think they would like to be able to take this group that broke into the Capitol building and charge them with something more than trespassing. But since nobody ever imagined that any actual group of Americans would ever stoop into the shit hole so low as to do something like this, it's never been dealt with. So that's what little I know about this question. I don't know anything about a specific bill, if there is one that deals with domestic terrorism. That needs to be done. I'm not the expert on that. We have to pay people to figure that stuff out, right?
I think
but you got to be able to charge them with something more than trespassing.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to piece it together too, and I'm not sure if, we have the Patriot Act that was post 9/11, and then that basically allowed the security agencies to, for lack of a better word,
that was all foreign, though.
Yeah,
that was all. Yeah, that let them surveil foreign terrorists. Right?
Yeah, but here, right?
Yeah, but only if they're surveilling a foreign terrorist group or whatever, and an American citizen gets involved. If the terrorists call the American citizen and they record the American citizen, they have to keep them masked, right? They've probably heard that term, and so. The Patriot Act never changed anything about domestic terrorism. It's strictly all foreign.
So, are you worried at all about some of the things going around in the media? Where do we draw the line? So, you use the example of the people storming the Capitol, and there should be something stronger than just trespassing. So, what I hear, and I agree with you, but a lot of the word that I hear is extremists, and I'm going to throw in a word that you like to use when we talk about social media and freedom of speech and saying things that are ultimately dangerous. So where do we...
Oh, dangerous?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say sedition or
no.
treason. Okay.
So where do we draw the line with extreme thought
dangerous
before
extremist?
It materializes into extreme behavior?
I don't know. I'm not sure I understand. Is there a question there? Or what?
I'm just thinking out loud. I mean, I'll just say I'm a little worried because it's a slippery slope, as many things are. You have to deal with what's in front of you, which is, Trump's role in inciting this. It's not a coup we established, but whatever happened at the Capitol, and then the individuals' roles in that. Their behavior, and then ultimately what happened when they got on those grounds. All that stands alone, right? You have to deal with that. But if you take that out, are we now going to have this knee-jerk reaction and watch people because we want to make sure that there aren't other extremists out there, and where are we going to draw the line at labeling people extreme? Can you have extreme thought, I guess is the question, without extreme action? If you don't act on it, are you still able to have this thought, or are you now... going to be watched and silenced through technology and cybersecurity and all that shit?
I don't think I know the answer to that question the way you put it. I think what you're asking is, are we going to try to have the thought police or something? Is
exactly.
That what you're talking about? Well, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to see anybody's civil liberties curtailed, but I just don't buy. I don't buy. Listen. We need to protect the democracy, And I don't want to see it done in a knee-jerk fashion. I don't want to see overreaction. I just want to see
if I give you early,
thoughtful,
sorry to interrupt you. If I give you early shares in the Republica, you don't want in on it?
I can't. I already spent all my money on GameStop. So,
oh my God. I want to talk about GameStop.
I'm not old and I'm not young enough to be involved in GameStop. I can't even bring myself to understand the fucking.
I know. I was trying to. It dominated the news. I was trying to figure it out, but I think I have a little bit of an understanding. Are you following it?
Not exactly. So let's curve away from that very weighty conversation about thought police, and let's talk about GameStop for a minute.
I wanted
it's going to be more fun.
Do you want to go back to the thought police? Because I want to bait you with some sound bites.
Well, it is something I think about a lot. So let's do it this way then. Let's talk about the thought police for a couple minutes, and let's bring back. I'm kind of looking at the time too. We're running out of time fast, though.
No, we're not. Fuck it.
Thought police is an interesting thing, and I've re-listened to our discussions of it when I was hotter under the collar than I am now, and so on and so forth. And I totally respect your position about a lot of this, because up until recently, it was always my position, right? Just fuck off. Don't worry about what people are thinking. You can't do anything about it. Let everybody say whatever they want. And I still agree with that. But I think we have to be realistic and understand that we have some new that social media platforms are new to the equation, and the old equation needs to be adjusted to take this into account. And I listened to some of our past discussions about this, and I think that so some valid points on both sides. One of the valid points that I made is that social media is not protected by the Constitution, and it's only the government that can't impinge on free speech or freedom of the press. So that has nothing to do with social media platforms. Is anybody happy with the power that we see social media platforms have? Matter of factly, they virtually have silenced the unsilenceable Donald Trump since they took him off Twitter.
Yeah,
right?
They're deciding what
70% of all the anti-democratic rhetoric has disappeared, and that in and of itself is a good thing and completely legal in the way it was done. But here's the thing, right? I think more concerning to a lot of people that watch this sector is what happened to Parler, right? So Apple and
Amazon
Google decided to that's right, AWS, right? Amazon, whatever that is, Amazon
Web Services. They hosted the website.
Right. And so they shut them down, right? Because they're like, hey, you're just not doing what you should be doing, and we're not going to be the service provider for your hate speech or whatever. And so I think that's something that's going to be dealt with. That's one of the reasons why large monopolistic large companies that engage in out of control monopolistic practices is dangerous, and why we have antitrust laws that are more than likely to be brought to bear on AWS and Google. And because, really probably private companies should not, these kind of companies should not have the ability to shut down another company like that. That's still not the government. And so it's kind of a complicated thing that I'm trying to follow the best I can. So far for me, I think it comes down to this. As a democracy, we have a right to not allow dangerous anti-democratic forces to monopolize large bully pulpits. And that's for our own good. And we're going to be stupid if we don't protect ourselves from that. And that doesn't need to be done at the expense of free speech. So I know it looks kind of like a slippery slope, But I think that we need to think it through and figure it out.
Well, and that part isn't the slippery slope. And when you and I had those discussions, and all jokes aside, I agree with you. I agree with, you kind of, illustrated that nicely. I agree with that. But the slippery slope is where we go from here. And you just, a lot of the problems that we kind of talk about in the last, 4 years and, 8 years and 10 years, the common denominator on a lot of it is social media, because you have these, fucking keyboard warriors.
We don't have laws and regulations, have not kept up with social media. So they're operating virtually unregulated right now, which to the what's your party?
The Common Sense Party?
No, the other one.
The Common Sense Party. Okay, I'm glad you brought this up. Listen, my party, anybody who belongs to a party is weak, in my opinion.
Okay.
I'm
not
What's
the party that you vote?
I voted for the candidate for the Libertarian Party.
Libertarian. God, I got to write that down in front of me.
Here, I'm going to play. Here, you teed that
ahead.
up nicely. You know who this John Brennan is? Yeah, he was the former CIA chief. I think
absolutely, I know who he is. Yeah.
So this is a soundbite kind of taken out of context, but he was being asked about this domestic terrorism bill and basically how you need to watch and monitor extreme behavior. So
before you play that, can you tell us anything about the domestic bill? I mean, do you know who's putting it up there? Is this a Democratic Party sponsored thing? Is this a you know who's involved or not really?
God, is his name Snyder? I want to say it's a House bill. I think when I hear the name Snyder,
I always want to put Chuck in front of it. Who's Chuck Snyder? Is that the guy, the newscaster on Channel 4?
I don't
Chuck
watch
Snyder.
that.
All right, go ahead.
But I think it's a House bill. I think it was maybe some version of it was introduced even before this Capitol thing. I think they're talking about amending it. But the bottom line is, the word extremist is on everybody's mind.
Looking forward, that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of a country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians.
You hear that shit?
There you go.
This fucking guy is now going to decide that groups of people who think the same way, whether it's your religion or whether it's your view on how your government should control you via libertarianism, that you are an extremist, and that's bad. This is the former CIA chief.
Yeah, so this bill is being brought forth by Representative Brad Schneider, Illinois.
All right.
Democrat, I'm guessing. Jerry Nadler, the Judiciary Committee Chairman. Representative Brian Fitzpatrick, Robin Kelly, Don Bacon, Vincent Gonzalez, Fred Upton, Lou Correa, Senator Dick Durbin. Okay. So a Senate bill is led by Dick Durbin. So, boy, I haven't had a chance to look at this. So I just found the whole thing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting reading. You can look at it later. But again, we're getting on we're treading on dangerous ground here, where we start to, in my opinion, listen, I don't know where this is going to go. This is his opinion. But you start to get this groupthink that we need to guard against. So I got another one I'll throw at you. You know who this Nicole Wallace is? I think she's...
Yeah, I know Nicole.
She's
an
anchor,
right?
Favorites. Is she MSNBC?
Yep.
Okay,
she's former... She was a former campaign director and press secretary for Bush.
Right. Okay, so here's her comments on it.
No, I was just going to say, if you read that bulletin... They're looking for very specific domestic terrorists. They're looking out for people who believe a very specific ideology, and it centers around a couple things. It centers around anger at COVID restrictions, and who is raging against COVID.
Who's not angry at that?
Restrictions while he was supposed to be protecting the country from COVID. Donald Trump tweeting "Liberate Michigan," tweeting "Liberate Virginia. It also centers around anger and the acceptance of a false narrative. That's in this security document. These aren't political people. These are security officials trying to warn local law enforcement who to look out for. And they told them to look out for people who accepted a false narrative. Now, Donald Trump told the lie, but there are a whole lot of Republicans who repeated the lie and a whole lot of conservative commentators who amplified the lie. And I think today they should be asking what they need to do to get out of the hot seat. They're in the hot seat, not the other way around.
Okay, her comments at the end there.
So the COVID part you understand, but the other part is the thing she's talking about is the fraudulent election.
Yeah, listen.
Here's that's the false narrative she's talking about. So
all that
if
stuff.
If you have publicly come out and said, "Hey, the election was stolen. It was the Democrats stole it. It's a lie." Blah blah blah. The deep state. Blah blah blah. Those are the people that bulletin is speaking to. And
yeah, I get
those
that.
are people
but here's the thing:
watch out for.
All that shit at the end that she said is true, right? You and I have been over that. But here's why I'm going to use your word. This is dangerous because what did she say that's beyond all that? The key phrase you need to hone in on here is specific ideology. We need to be worried about a specific ideology. And she lumps in there things like COVID restrictions. So couple that together with Brennan's comments about religious extremists, and basically the bottom line is ideology of people who don't believe
you're going to jail. That's
right,
the bottom
exactly. And this is dangerous. Now, these people aren't current lawmakers, but when you and I haven't read the whole Snyder bill, but this is what worries me because this is the truth, Mike. What those clips just said. That's not the problem. And this is the type of knee-jerk reaction that I worry about because you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're lumping in the disgrace that happened a couple of weeks ago that was led by the then president, and then you're throwing in all this other shit that has nothing to do with that. And you're labeling people as extremists who have a quote-unquote specific ideology. That's fucking scary. It should scare everybody.
Well, I don't know what your deal is with specific ideology. I don't know why that
is because people who have a specific ideology that doesn't align with the Democratic Party or the communist faction within the Democratic Party.
No.
You're going to be labeled a domestic terrorist.
No, it's not that aligns with the Democratic Party. Neither of those people are Democrats either, by the way.
I'm saying that in reference to the fact that they're with our theme that there is no Republican Party. So let's face it, there's one party.
Well, it's anti-American. Okay,
what is
to have specific ideology is anti-American.
Which part though?
The part about the fraudulent elections.
What about the COVID restrictions? What about your religious beliefs?
You're wrong about that too.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
What about your religious beliefs?
Listen,
and I've said
I didn't hear him talk about religious beliefs.
Fucking Brennan did. He's saying you have to watch out for religious extremists. I'm the one that always says there's no Jesus. You go to the ground and the worms eat you. Well, right? I'm the least Jesus-y person there is.
You got nothing to worry about then.
That's right. Not me personally, but I am speaking for the little man. You see? I'm defending people's religious beliefs and freedoms.
Well, listen. Brennan is a longtime national security expert. And when he says that you need to watch out for people with extreme religious views, anti-COVID people and people that have furthered the big lie about the election, I think you should listen to him. And I think our intelligence and our Justice Department need to be watching people that engage in those specific, what's the term you're freaking out about?
Specific ideology.
Ideologies, yeah.
When we couple all of the hours that you have spent on the toilet reading the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the fucking First
out of
Amendment.
Respect, I did not read that on the toilet.
The goddamn first one is freedom of religion. And you're saying we got to trust this guy because he's an expert and we got to trust his opinion on religious extremism?
Well, I trust him. You just happen to pick two people that I find extremely reliable. And
I'm not trying to discredit them. I'm not trying to assassinate their character.
You should be listening to them.
I am listening, and don't you get it? The fact is that I'm pointing out two people who are respected and whose opinion should matter,
right?
They're saying things that are very fucking scary. This
I mean,
country is going to
I
turn
don't want
into
you to be
Myanmar.
scared, Trav. I don't want you to be scared, but you have to listen. If you don't watch extremist groups within the country, bad things are going to happen.
That
we
I
don't
agree
want to
with
have
you.
happen.
If
And
you
we don't.
What's an extremist group?
So what's?
That's the question. You see.
Well, I will tell you right now. People that don't believe in the COVID thing, that's one. So you're borderline extremist right there.
I mean, why would I be borderline? I would be a full-blown extremist in that example.
Okay, you are a full-blown extremist when it comes to COVID, right?
Because I'm a freedom fighter. I don't believe my government can steal from me.
You're a freedom fighter. Listen, calm down.
If I actually end up, in a group, I would rather be a freedom ninja than a freedom fighter.
Oh my God! For why? Why? I'll bite.
Why? Just because that sounds better.
Okay, freedom.
I always wanted to be a ninja.
Freedom ninja.
The point is, who gets to decide? Who gets to label me an extremist? Because I don't like the COVID? Who the fuck likes the COVID lockdown? Come on. So listen, I agree with you. You see, this is.
Well, I don't think that they're saying everybody that is unhappy about the whole COVID narrative. But if you are that, and you are promoting the big lie about the election, and you are a religious extremist of any flavor, then you fall into a group that needs to be watched, because you are most likely to become a domestic terrorist.
And don't you see how dangerous that is?
I don't.
And those are three examples, right? But who knows where the list ends?
They have to be all together. Those two people are saying, hey, you have these three things going on with a group. That's the group you need to watch out for.
But that's not the full comprehensive list, and I don't know what it is. And guess what? It keeps changing by.
But I don't think just being upset about COVID because it offends your business, your capitalistic business sense, is going to put you in that group.
They're saying it does.
No. They're saying that if you are all three of those two people, and those two clips are saying, if you're all three of those things, if you're a COVID denier, if you're a fraudulent election promoter,
if you're a libertarian,
and if you are listen, libertarians, not in the real world.
Here's the thing:
and if you are a religious extremist, that put you into this group of domestic terrorist possibilities, wannabes, whatever the hell you want to call them.
Just take libertarians
as
a standalone. Yeah, but just take libertarians as a standalone, whose fundamental belief. Brennan did. He did. And
he didn't say libertarians as a standalone.
He did. He lumped it in. He said, as an example. You want to hear it again?
Yeah.
Looking forward, that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of a country and they gain strength, and it brings together an unholy alliance frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, even libertarians.
I can't decide what I like better: specific ideology or unholy alliance.
Nativists and even libertarians.
Even libertarians, and that's the point.
I agree with everything he said. So
the bottom line is, if your view of government is that it's too big and it's too intrusive, which in my opinion, the government in 2021 is not the way this country was intended to be set up, based on how the founders wrote it, and that's more.
That doesn't lump you into that group of possible domestic terrorists that he's referring to.
Listen, these guys, I see who's watching us. I see where our downloads are coming from. A lot of DC happening here. The point is, I'm just trying to get your goat here, but come on, don't you see this is fucking crazy?
Well, look, I think that, to be honest with you, I think that your warning is well taken, right? I just think that here's what happens sometimes with this kind of thing, because I've been on the other side of this when I didn't understand more clearly what the side I'm currently on is. So let me back up a little bit. I think that the warnings about loss of freedom of speech, freedom of thought are well taken, but I don't think that they apply to this. I think that we need to wake the fuck up and understand that starting with Newt Gingrich and now well germinated by Donald Trump over the last 4 years, especially Trump, we have created this subgroup of this unholy alliance between several groups of people that may not be in lockstep with the general opinion about
what does that
how
even mean?
things should be.
You don't get to go to heaven because you're in an unholy alliance?
That's what an unholy alliance means. Not blessed by God. So I think that
all dogs go to heaven unless you are part of the unholy alliance.
So I think that what he's saying is this is the intelligence outlook, right? They see things happening in the United States that they have watched happen over and over again in, say, the Middle East, where these disparate groups, not desperate, but these disparate groups get have a 3 or 4 different, main themes, and you kind of name them off there. And then they coalesce in different parts of the country into this unholy alliance. And then through social media, they can trigger to action. And it's dangerous. And we need to be on the lookout for it. And we need our intelligence services to be watching out for that. And we need the government to be aware of it. Right.
You know what I see?
I don't think anything in that statement, those two statements from either of those people, especially after hearing his twice, it makes a little more sense. Because I did hear that libertarian thing at the end, and I'm like, why is he including what is, in my opinion, a quasi-legitimate political party?
It doesn't need to be a legitimate party to be a legitimate thought, and that's the problem. I see we're all going to be wearing armbands here. The fucking thought police, they're out to get us, Mike.
I don't think so. Be vigilant, my freedom fighter friend. Listen, be vigilant, my freedom ninja.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So I think everybody in the audience should rest easily because Travis is going to be vigilant and keep an eye out for overreach on, the state controlling our thought process. I don't see that happening, and I don't think anything about the discussion that's currently going on regarding domestic terrorism. And this is actually called the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2021. And I think this is going to be worth looking at closely. I'm looking at a picture of Brad Schneider. It doesn't look like too much of a radical Democrat.
It's the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act. So did the current domestic terrorists, do they get grandfathered in? Are they going to be allowed to continue to be terrorists, and it's only preventing new terrorists?
This isn't the first one. This isn't the first domestic. There was the legislation is nearly identical to the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2020, which was
obviously didn't prevent these terrorists.
Well, this is endorsed by a broad coalition of Anti-Defamation League, Arab American Institute, Bend the Arc, Jewish Action, Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism, Human Rights Campaign, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. So, I mean, there's a pretty broad coalition of support for these kind of things. So, I think this was, I think that the Domestic Terrorism Prevention Act of 2020 was languishing a little bit, but now after the Capitol incursion,
they got to go in there and fix it.
They're gonna tweak it, and I think it's probably going to come back because we're finding we don't have the laws we need to deal with people that actually engage in what we saw at the Capitol, right? So, I mean, I just think that we all need to just kind of take a breath and sit back and look at that and say, look, every single one of those fuckers that went through those doors, right?
Are you guilty
they all need to be prosecuted for what it was, an insurrection, an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States.
That part, there's no fucking that part.
It was listen, for every single one of those people that went in there, that's exactly what they thought they were doing.
You think these people, the Axeman, the guy with his horns on his head, he thought he was going to bulldoze his way through and take over the government?
You
think he thought he had a chance?
the more of a lunatic that they were in there. I mean, you could hear him talking there. Hey, let's form a new government right now.
That's like the homeless guy on the street that keeps talking to himself. He doesn't know what the fuck he's saying.
You know what? If it was 10 people that broke into the Capitol, but it was hundreds, evidently.
Hundreds. So hundreds of people thought they actually had a realistic chance of overthrowing the United States government.
No, it's hundreds of people decided to commit felonies.
I get that part. I agree with you, but if they actually thought that, then that's probably not their first big fantasy.
They need to be prosecuted and suffer the consequences. And
I'm with you there.
Whoever incited this mob to this needs to be prosecuted.
Okay, let me ask, are you guilty of being a domestic terrorist if you have these thoughts but you don't act on it?
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's saying that.
So what about if you're the insider?
Well, how about when you break the windows and climb through the windows of the Capitol?
Yeah, well, hey,
you're a domestic terrorist.
I'm with you there. Nobody can be on the glass at that point.
Nobody can charge you with that.
Why not?
There's no such crime. There's no such law.
We should be doing less charging. We should just be doing more. I don't know.
Killing.
Yes, assassinating. Let's just.
Shoot him.
Come on. Let's just get it over with. I'm with that.
Oh my God.
All right, we were talking about GameStop.
Okay,
so
let's go back.
Speaking of the government is going to fix all of our problems and tell us who is a domestic terrorist, including people who have religious beliefs, and libertarian beliefs. They're also going to tell us. They're also going to tell us how to fix the stock market because these fucking video game nerds have made their way into the headlines.
So do you know what Reddit is?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Do you know what Wall Street Bets is?
I didn't before this, but I do now.
But do you know?
Yeah.
I don't really. So here's the thing. So here's what I understand, and maybe you can help correct me. So my understanding is that a group of day traders on Reddit were watching. There's some community on Reddit or some horseshit that was watching some subreddit thing called Wall Street Bets. Mm-hmm. And they got it in their idea that a bunch of hedge fund managers who this group seems to hate they were betting on the short. So they're betting that GameStop, for instance, among others, was going to fail. So it is going to fail. So they kind of got together and said, okay, we're going to start buying GameStop stock. And a lot of this was happening on Robinhood.
Yes.
The brokerage.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Okay. And so it went through the roof, which is going to cause the hedge fund managers to lose billions of dollars. And so now let's just talk GameStop, because I know there are some other stocks involved too. But let's talk So now GameStop is artificially pumped up, what, millions of dollars, billions of dollars?
I don't even know what it is. It's like a 1,000% increase on their stock or something.
So now there's and now it's been going on for a week or something, or 2 weeks. And there's a lot of unsophisticated day traders and investors and people, especially hooked into this through Robinhood, who apparently has little or no ethics whatsoever. And what's going to happen is eventually they're going to have to sell. People are going to sell, and some people are going to make a lot of money. And some people are going to get stuck holding the bag, and they're going to lose their ass. Now, if you started out with $300 of, GameStop, and now it's blown up to $350,000 or something, if you lose the whole $350,000, I don't really give a shit. Oh, I don't really care anyway. I don't care if you lose all the money you put in, but so this is a dangerous game, I guess, this betting on shorts. So, and then do we give a shit what kind of damage it does to the hedge fund managers? A lot of people think that it's immoral to bet on the demise of a company like GameStop and make money on the short. And so that's the part where it gets a little bit hard to understand. So what do you know about this that's different from...
No, you did a great job with that. And the basic explanation of the short is, for the most part, the hedge fund managers, they take a stock like a GameStop and they borrow shares. And they say they borrow it at $30 a share, and then they sell it because they know it's a shit stock, it's a shit company. Its financials are poor, by the way, and it's on the brink of insolvency. But that has nothing to do with stock price. Remember, stock price is just total valuation times number of shares times X amount of dollars per share, and that's how much the company is supposed to be worth, which, by the way, is fake, which is why I always defend billionaire capitalist.
So they borrow the shares for GameStop?
Yeah, and this was a concept that I wasn't even really familiar with. You borrow the shares, say at $30.
Yeah.
And so then it's like a loan out to these hedge fund managers that you took out this stock for $30. Then they sell it into the market hoping it's going to devalue. And somebody might buy it, maybe it drops to $25. And then they buy it back when it dropped. And then, therefore, when they have to
keep the difference.
And they keep the difference. So then when they actually pay back the borrowed shares, they've made the profit.
So it has to drop. Otherwise, they get fucked.
So what do these Reddit fucking guys
And here's
do?
the other thing. They also have to actually put the money out and borrow those shares.
Yes.
Right? Because they're just saying I borrow the shares,
that has to do
there's
with
something illegal about that.
Well, yeah, and that has to do with the actual capitalization. And right. So there's
some people are going to get caught doing that. It looks like, I think.
And so then, if the stock doesn't drop, which they planned on it doing, so they make money on the trade, it went up because all these guys on Reddit and the Wall Street Army guys, they bid the stock price up. So it wasn't artificially up; they actually bought the stock. So when you watch buying and selling in the trading, day traders, you watch the stock market, then you see the price of a stock changing multiple times throughout the day, and ultimately where has it settled. All of these guys, I think, was because they liked the company, they liked their video games, and I don't think they were trying to fuck these hedge fund guys, we'll see, but they ended up buying shares, a significant amount of shares, which boosted the stock price. The loaned out shares that the hedge fund guys borrowed, hoping to make money on the short, backfired because now it was worth more, and they lost money. And at some point you go, fuck, now it's worth 35, 40, 45. I already lost. Should I cut my losses now and sell now? And
as the hedge fund
guy, or do I ride it up hoping it's going to come back down again? And that's when the whole story broke, because it's like, wait a minute, this isn't a natural phenomenon that I can write. This is on behalf of the hedge fund guys. They're saying this isn't a natural phenomenon that is going to come back down. This is being driven by this army of GameStop loyal fans on Reddit. So the key question here, and Elizabeth Warren, she's got comments all over this thing, the key phrase is manipulation, market manipulation. Was this a deliberate attempt to manipulate the stock on either side of whether it's, at one point she even suggests, I got some audio of her, she even suggests, well, wait a minute, are the evil hedge fund managers part of the Reddit army?
Yeah, they are.
Are they the ones who are artificially driving the stock price up to gamble against the short?
Yeah. I just listened to a podcast earlier today with the guy that owns Reddit, and he was asked that very question. He's like, oh, absolutely, the big hedge funds are in it now. So when they saw this happening, so some of the big players are in it. So that speculation is already pretty much accepted as common knowledge. The question is, though, did the Reddit army do anything illegal? And apparently nobody feels that they have to this point. And even though, and I do think that the common wisdom on this is that this community of younger, what do we call them? Younger traders, that they did do this as a way to try to punish the evil hedge fund managers because they don't like it. And so then that's a difference, though. That's different. So that's a bunch of people independently talking to each other on social media, which is Reddit, saying, hey, bye, bro. It's got a rocket ship or whatever the term is, right? And hands up in a rocket ship, and away we go. And they're saying, listen, if if it wasn't manipulation for the sole point of them making profits on this, then it's not illegal. If they wanted to get together and say, hey, let's all fuck over the hedge fund managers and buy this stock and teach them a lesson because we don't think that's moral, that's perfectly legal. So
I think the whole
that's what Warren is talking about, that she thinks, because she's a legislator, so, everything's a nail. She's a hammer and everything's a nail to her. We're going to need to legislate it. But I don't think the jury's in on that.
Right, and I think she's even saying that it is legal, and should it be? I think is really where she's going with this.
Right, should it? I mean, because this is the first time it's really... And then there's something else, and I don't know how much of this is. It's something called the big squeeze. You heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
So is that a separate thing, or is that just another name for all, or is that the name?
I don't know.
Because I've understood that there's been squeeze like this done in the past. Honda or something was involved in it a few years ago.
I mean, here's
about that?
No, and I'm really not a stock market guy. I don't pretend to be an expert, although I do kind of follow the big stories. But I don't know. Isn't all stock market, isn't it basically one big casino? You got to listen to some of this. I mean, she's saying casino like it's a bad word, but casinos are legal, and people go to casinos to make money. In fact, we like to tout the fact that people can make money, average people can make money in the stock market by way of stock appreciation or dividend-paying stocks. Obviously, this is something that's caught the Biden administration's eye because they want to raise taxes on those gains. But the bottom line is, and places like Robinhood, they're an exchange, right? So it's the same as a Charles Schwab or something like that, where you can go to buy and sell. And
sort of, but I guess the rub on Robinhood is that and here's what's going to happen on Robinhood, right? They're going to prevent these traders from making any more trades for 90 days.
And they did, and I think as of today, they lifted that hold and they put a cap at like 20 shares or something.
Did they?
I think so.
Yeah, that's real complicated stuff there.
It is, I know.
And that doesn't make but here's the take on Robinhood. It's not air quotes, it's not a good company.
Its name is Robinhood. Yeah. Right? Doesn't Robinhood rob from the rich and give to the poor?
Well, this is the company that had, because here's the thing.
Call it Democrats.
They are encouraging people that are not really qualified to engage in high risk options trading and day trading without, I don't know what the other
predatory.
I don't know what the other providers do that is different, but evidently Robinhood is not doing something that other ones are doing. And for instance, because they have kind of gamified the whole dashboard or something. So I guess the rub is that Robinhood has made this stock, whatever the hell they're doing, seem more like a video game. And you don't need to have so you can get in. And so one guy killed himself because
he lost money.
Thought he was $370,000 in debt to Robinhood, and it wasn't really true, but there was nothing on the site that could explain it to him. And here's the other big rub. Nobody he could contact. There's no helpline.
That's his own
There's
fault.
No customers. Well, they're saying some of this falls on there's some responsibility. I mean, it's still there. So obviously they haven't done anything illegal yet.
I heard that story too. And I don't know the details. I know what you're saying. He had lost money, a significant amount. He may have borrowed it. And so the question is,
do I care if he offed himself over a misunderstanding? But
he's a moron.
What I'm saying, yeah,
we need one less moron. Come on.
So who's marking time at 2 hours and 3 minutes? We're in agreement. All right, so that's what I heard about. It's very interesting. Do you have an Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah, you want to hear her?
You want to hear? I hate to see
your
clips go to waste.
So talk us through what you meant by the content of that tweet. What do you think has been wrong in the actions of the last week or two, and what do regulators need to do to stop it?
So look, the first part of this is we all see what's happening with GameStop. There are rich people on both sides of this, people who are trying, it appears, to manipulate this market. And that's what we don't know the details of. For a long time now, the SEC has pulled back and not made sure that we have an honest market. The whole point of having a stock market is so that people across this country, around the world, can invest in businesses, help create that capital accumulation so businesses have the money they need to grow and to prosper. Instead, what has happened is it's turned into a casino, so that market manipulators come in and they drive markets up or down and make a profit on it. It's called the gamification of the market. And all of a sudden, the billionaires and some hedge funds are yelling because they're not the only ones who make money when the manipulation works. But remember the other half of this.
Want some
There's going to
cheese
be a
with that
lot of
wine?
people who are going to lose money around this, a lot of money that they can't afford to lose. This is why we need an SEC that has clear rules about market manipulation and then has the backbone to go in and enforce those rules.
So listen, I don't have all the answers here, but it's hard not to read into what she's saying that basically the nanny state again has to come to the rescue because these fucking nincompoops can't decide for themselves if they're making a good investment, and then the rich people are playing to their mental illnesses and taking advantage of them in the evil casino. That's what I heard.
Touche on using my own phrase back against me. I appreciate that too, the nanny state. Well, I mean, I think that this is going to be an interesting story to follow. Here, I got to bring something up though. 2 hours into the podcast, we're not talking about the Black Lives Matter.
We're not 2 hours in.
Huh?
We're not quite 2 hours in.
But too far in now to bring up, the cliffhanger or with the teaser that.
Oh yeah, what was it? Well,
episode.
you didn't tell me what it was. I forgot.
I know, that's okay. We'll just, I got some comments back saying, "Hey, great tease for
Oh fuck! Now we're gonna let people down.
Don't worry, we're gonna get to it, folks. Today was a kind of a feel good episode for me. So
I don't know. You went off the rails there a little bit.
a little, but try to keep it in context. I think what I'd like to what I'm talking about here is the comparison between Black Lives Matter protests and what we saw at the insurgency at the Capitol building. So somehow there's some group of people out there that think somehow those two things are morally equivalent or should be, or some horse shit. And I want to talk about it, but not today.
We can talk about it, but let me just also say this, that I think the majority of the people that are saying that, they align themselves with a party that starts with R, which is not my party. So let's just throw that out there.
Republica?
Not Republica. Remember, we do have a Republican form of government.
Well, aren't you? You're actually you're actually an independent, right?
Yeah. Officially,
that's your
I'm an
political
independent.
party.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I'm hearing, that, and I don't have anything to back this up. So I don't know if you've heard this or if you have any knowledge, or we'll leave it out there and come back to it. That really neither Republicans or Democrats represent the largest amount of people affiliated with a party. That the largest party affiliation is independent.
Is that right?
That's what I've been hearing. So I'm going to do a little research into that and see if I can get it.
I feel great if that's true.
Yeah. It doesn't make you right. But.
You know what's interesting is let's say that is true. The scary part about that is, if it's true, at the end of the day, none of us are voting that way. We're voting based on, the red pill or the blue pill, and we're making enemies out of each other. And I'm not trying to turn this into a feel-good message at the end, because what fun would that be? But, I mean, people just lose their shit instead of just trying to get stuff done. Come on.
Well, and I think, by way of circling back just a touch, our early discussion about the COVID relief, I think maybe I'm not making my position on that clear. It doesn't have to be exactly the way it is. And, maybe it's too big, maybe it's not. It's certainly not too big by the difference between 1.9 trillion and 6 billion. That's not a reasonable billion. Difference. 600 billion. It's not a reasonable amount, but it's not, and I don't care. I'm not interested in wins for the Democrats or losses for the Republicans. I just want to see the lawmakers.
And I take you at face value there. But unfortunately, a lot of people in leadership roles in the Democratic Party, that's not how they think. They want to chalk up wins for their party at the expense of the other party, and this is an opportunity to do it.
I can certainly accept that, but I don't think that, personally, I don't think that that's represented by the Biden administration at all. I think, look, is Schumer still wildly partisan? My guess is he is. And is Pelosi
Can we get him some new
partisan?
glasses?
Whatever it takes, he's about as he's got a face for radio just like me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, did I get some shit for talking about Sarah Sanders Huckabee's looks on the last episode? Oh my God. And I think I probably deserved it. So let me just say that that was trying to be funny on the podcast. I don't really care what Sandra.
You don't need to apologize
Sarah
if
Sanders
that's what the fuck
Huckabee
that.
like.
Listen,
I don't care.
this is the Couch Funeral Podcast. As I say, we're not qualified to speak about anything.
That's right. If you're going to get butthurt because we make fun of somebody's looks, don't listen.
Yeah, I'm the guy that says retard.
Long time caller, first time listener. All right, you guys.
All right, everybody.
Is that it?
I think that's it. Have a good one.
See you later.